I have Narayan Lakshman, Associate Editor of The Hindu, joining me on the broadcast. Mr. Lakshman, I appreciate you taking the time out and speaking to us on Meera now. In fact, this is, of course, a significant development that's come in. Your perspective and first reaction, speaking about this geopolitically as well, because there were talks about Biden making this visit, but now that, as we speak, we're also seeing these visuals. So America's message is pretty clear.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it has been clear from day one that the U.S. is literally the tip of the spear so far as NATO is concerned, and the alliance which is pushing back against the Russian invasion and war in Ukraine. I think there have been some sensitive questions along the way, as Srinjoy was saying earlier, in terms of the supply of artillery and the specific weaponry and missiles and so forth, because Russia obviously has the nuclear option, and everyone wants to avoid an escalation. But I think it's a fine balancing act. So President Biden actually showing up there, and as you said, visible on television to reporters there, it does suggest that the U.S. is not flinching from telling the whole world, especially Putin and Russia, that they are firmly behind President Zelenskyy and that they will see this war through. No matter how long it takes, there is a sense of strategic patience on the side of NATO and the U.S. in particular.
Right, Narayan Lakshman, I appreciate you taking the time out, speaking to us on Meera now, and also giving us your perspective on this big story that we're tracking at the moment. But we leave it at that. But I also understand we have Meera Shankar, former Indian ambassador to the US, joining me on the broadcast as well over the phone lines. Meera Shankar, I appreciate you taking the time out and speaking to us. Like we were, of course, speaking about the fact that these visuals are clearly the indication of the fact that US's message is very clear. In fact, Biden has also said in the past that no matter what it takes, they are going to continue to support Ukraine.
Yes, clearly the visit to Kyiv has a symbolical message for Russia that the U.S. is in this for the long haul and will be with Ukraine no matter what. Now, of course, the reason that such a message was needed right now was that the Russians have been making some gains in recent days. They have broken through two lines of Ukrainian defenses in the east, and everybody expects that there may be a major offensive from Russia in the coming days. You saw Zelenskyy kind of use the old Indian phrase air dash to the U.S. after the Russians breaking through those two defense lines of Ukraine, to urge that the weapons that have been promised should be delivered soon. And, of course, the U.S. and Western allies are responding to Ukraine's requests quite energetically. But there are some issues in the sense that Ukraine wanted fighter jets, but I don't think that fighter jets have been agreed to, though the U.S. and Western allies have agreed to provide tanks and have also agreed to provide longer-range missiles and so on. But the Ukrainians are also short of artillery, it seems, and there the production lines in Europe are frayed. I mean, they need to actually ramp up production to be able to meet Ukraine's additional requirements. Now, some of this may take some time because Germany will take some time to supply the Leopard tanks. The Netherlands and the Danish government have said no, have regretted that they can't supply the tanks, and Germany has been requesting the U.S. to lean on these governments to do so because they have the tanks ready and could supply it quickly. So we have to wait and watch. But it all looks like there's going to be an escalation, and that saner voices on both sides don't seem to prevail because there doesn't seem to be any move towards, negotiating a ceasefire and commencing discussions.
Right, Ambassador Meera Shankar, I'm going to come back to you in a couple of minutes. Please stay with me. In fact, we have Ruslan Botnik, the head of the Ukrainian Institute of Politics, joining me on the broadcast as well. Mr. Botnik, appreciate you taking the time out and speaking to us. What do you believe is the bigger message being conveyed to Russia and China here? Because, of course, at the end of the day, US's message is pretty clear. But what do you think is the larger aspect over here?
I think the China and United States are trying to find the path to maybe freezing or resolution this conflict. Because today, Biden, President of the United States, Biden in Ukraine, and one of the leaders of China, Wang Yi, in Moscow at the same time. And but this new attempt to freeze this conflict which leads to a big dangers for the world trade, for the political stability in the world, may not be successful. And if this attempt will not be successful, it will lead us to a new scale of escalation. And it looks like China and United States are together afraid of this new escalation.
You know, as you point that out, now this visit, of course, comes ahead of the first war anniversary. What implications do you think it would have on the ongoing war, in your opinion?
It depends on the situation of behind the stands, behind the curtains, political curtains negotiation. We don't know what is going there, but it's a very special situation when the China is going to publish, to prepare a new peaceful plan for Ukraine till the end of this month. We don't remember in the history, in political history, such moment when the China is going was going to prepare such type of political regulation for any of country. But this day visit also has three main goals for Biden's administration. The first goal is a good start for election campaign for Biden, who is going to be, it looks like he is going to be reelected in the next year in a presidential election in the United States. Also, it's a slap to the face of Russian Federation, because nowadays Biden in Kyiv and Russia can do nothing with this situation. And also it's a signal of support to Ukraine that the United States and allies are going to support our country for long times. It's political signals which should be used like a starting position for negotiation at the one side, and for the another side, it should be used for the new way of escalation. We should to check how the situation will go on further.
Mr. Botnik, as you point that out, we're also picking up a significant development coming in that a new package of sanctions against Russia will also be announced. So how do you read into that?
Western countries must to continue this sanction because it's a logic of their policy to the Russian Federation and Ukraine. But the effectiveness of this sanction, it's not enough to change the Russian geopolitical goals. It's quite clear for nowadays. So sanctions, of course, they works, but they are not very fast, and they are not. There is not any possibility to change the Russian politics only through the sanctions. Sanctions should be good together with the peaceful negotiation. There should be a sweet and should be a wheat from the one moment to change the policy of any country. So it's not very effective instrument, but this instrument is a part of the logic.
Right, Mr. Botnik, appreciate you joining us on the broadcast and, of course, giving us your perspective on this significant development. But we leave it at that for the moment. I also understand that I have Ambassador Meera Shankar joining me once again on the broadcast. Ma'am, thank you very much for taking the time out again to speak to us. You know, in fact, since we were talking about this significant development, and the visit, of course, comes ahead of the first war anniversary, in your opinion, what implications would it have on the ongoing war?
Well, we have to wait and see, what implication it would have for the ongoing war. But what it means is that, the conflict is likely to intensify since both sides, seem to be gearing up to continue the conflict with heavier weaponry, more mobilization and training. So it seems that the conflict is likely to intensify, whereas what is needed right now is for both sides to try to begin discussions on how they can end the conflict and what are the kind of concessions that both sides could live with in an agreement. I mean, it's not going to be easy. Even if they actually start, it's going to take a while. And it may be that nothing ever gets finally resolved. But that's the only way you even have a chance of ending the conflict. Because, neither the Russians are going to prevail fully, nor are the Ukrainians going to prevail fully.
Right, ma'am. Thank you very much for joining us on the broadcast once again and giving us your perspective on this significant development. We leave it to that for the moment, but I also believe we have Ukraine MP Sviatoslav Yurash joining me on the broadcast. Yurash, thank you very much for taking the time out and speaking to us on Meera Now. Your first reaction of this significant development that's come in, because obviously with the fact that the message from the Americans is very clear, so that has been reiterated now once with Biden's visit today.
Thank you very much. For us, it is a clear showing that the West is united, that Russia will not be given a chance to make this horror a permanent reality. And there's no way that Russia can try and calcify this and legitimize whatever conquests they've made in this illegitimate war. They started against all the rules of national law, against all the rules of national order. And basically, the West is in it to win it. And we are very thankful for that. And we work with all our partners to basically achieve one single thing, that is getting Russians out of Ukraine, because this is our country and we will decide its future, not Mr. Putin with genocide that he's conducting in all territories he conquered, not Mr. Putin with the deaths he wrought on modern Europe, not Mr. Putin who started the biggest wars in Second World War in Europe. He doesn't deserve any concessions, any demands that he makes, not just onto Ukraine, but onto the world, for his place in this world of ours, where he basically broke every single rule imaginable all around the world, not just in Ukraine, and therefore he must be punished.
Mr. Yurash, as you point out, of course, a significant message that is coming out from there is that the West is united. But what is the bigger message being conveyed to Russia and China at this point of time, in your opinion?
The bigger message to Russia, I must be clear to Russia, is that Russia will be allowed to act as it wishes in the world. There are rules of international engagement. You cannot just start illegal wars. I guess this is not just a point made by the West. When Mr. Putin was meeting with the leader of India, Mr. Modi, that's the point that he very clearly made. And I'm very thankful for that. And again, this is not the century when you can start illegal wars, annex regions, conquer territories. That age is past. And I'm thankful for the global response, which understands that, supports that, and supports the simple idea that international order exists. And you cannot just act as you please, destroying, killing, and murdering countless people in the name of your imperial ambitions. These very much are.
As you also point that out, will this also mean immediate bolstered American aid to Ukraine? How do you read into that?
These visits don't come just for visits' sake. They obviously come as the grand result of many steps made in every direction by every side. And they don't come just for the sake of a meeting. They come first to symbolize the unyielding commitment to the just defense of the national order that is done in Ukraine. And obviously they come with various different programs and initiatives that will start after this. So I'm very thankful for all that America has done, all that America is doing, and all that America will do. Because again, America is the leader of the free world, and this unequivocal visit to Ukraine is another reminder to all of the world that it certainly remains so.
Right. Also, in your opinion, Yurash, the visit, of course, comes ahead of the first, war anniversary. In your opinion, of course, you've spoken about the ongoing war, but geopolitically speaking, how does one read into this going forward?
Geopolitically speaking, Russia is destroying various ideas about what it is around the world, with the crushing defeat of all the expectations that certainly were there by many prominent intelligences around the world about the fact that Russia will take over Ukraine in 3 days, a week, a month. All that was shown to be untrue, and Russia was shown to be what it is, a giant on clay legs. And certainly with all the action that Russia has done for all these years of war, because Ukrainian war didn't just start for Russia on February last year, it started in 2014 with the annexation of Crimea by Russia, illegal annexation of Crimea. And for us, it's again another reminder of the world, that Russia is not what it presents itself to be.